No place like home. My mother's not a barrel of laughs when she doesn't get her way. Just ask Snow White. Evie, Descendants. Chapter 16. Isle Alumni. One thing you could say about the Isle of the Lost was that it never changed. Mal wasn't sure if she loved or loathed that about the place. When Mal, Evie, Carlos, and Jay arrived in the middle of the busy market, everything was exactly as they remembered it. The decrepit tenement buildings covered with peeling paint and graffiti on the sides, the lines of wet, ragged laundry that crisscrossed the plaza, the tin sheds, the hay carts, the vendors hawking everything from holy scars to varnished trinkets. The sky was gloomy, and everyone looked filthy and sad. This was where they had come from, the neglected island prison where villains were trapped for their crimes against the people of Ordon. Granted, the four of them had returned to the isle not so long ago to fetch Mal, and then rescued Ben from Uma's clutches. But, just the same, it was still a shock to see it. Mal glanced up at her mother's old balcony. Her entire childhood had been spent in those shabby rooms above the bargain castle that sold wizard robes half price. She used to sit on that balcony and look wistfully over at the mainland, wondering when her life would change. Sometimes Jay came to join her, and they would split a bag of stale cheese puffs, their fingers turning as orange as the sunset. "Come on," said Evie, taking Mal by the arm. "Let's go to our old hideout." "Hideout?" asked Carlos. "Isn't this an official visit from the palace? Don't we have any place to stay?" Evie smiled at him indulgently. "You're cute." "You'd rather go to your house?" teased Mal. "Never," said Carlos. "Lead the way." "There aren't any 5-star castles on the Isle of the Lost," Jay chided. "I just remembered that," said Carlos, smacking his forehead. "If anyone asks, I didn't pack my spa bathrobe, okay?" A few curious onlookers spotted them in the crowd, but most left them alone. Mal's fearsome reputation tended to keep people away, but even though it seemed like people still feared her, she wondered if they would ever look up to her as a true leader, someone to follow and admire and respect, especially now that she was an official business from Ordon. She tried smiling magnanimously at a street urchin who scurried past them, but the kid just squealed and sped up. Mal sighed. This wasn't going to be easy. Once they arrived, Carlos found the hidden latch, and Jay threw his shoe at it. The iron door opened, and they walked up to the loft. It was just as they remembered, with graffiti on the walls, lumpy mattresses, and trash everywhere. "Home, sweet hideout," said Evie, wrinkling her nose. Mal knew she was thinking of their pretty room back at school, with its comfortable beds, fat, fluffy pillows, neat rows of bookshelves, and lush of carpeting. Carlos grimaced at the sight, and Jay looked just as bummed. It was seriously grimy. There was soot on the windowsill, and there were streaks of dirt on the floor. "It's only for a few days," said Mal, trying to sound comforting. "I know, I always forget what it was like," said Evie. "Who wants to remember?" Jay smiled. "Dibs on the couch." Carlos accidentally kicked a trash can, overturning its contents, and one of Harry's hooks rolled out. "Pirates were here. Ugh, no wonder this place is such a dump," he said, his frown deepening. Jay glared at the mustaches and assorted doodles the pirates had drawn on the portraits of the four of them that Mal had painted on the walls. "Animals," he pronounced, and went to look for a rag. They made the place as habitable as they could, sweeping up the trash and scrubbing the floors. Evie put clean sheets on the beds and unpacked the pillows she'd brought from Ordon. "Thank goodness you don't travel light," said Carlos, looking relieved. "Never," promised Evie, removing a vase and flowers from the bottom of her trunk. She looked around at the newly cleaned and brightened space. They had brought a little Ordon to their old pad. "Better. Let's get going," said Mal. She felt a rush of energy. "I want to make the announcement as soon as possible." They left and locked the hideout, and Mal led them out through the crowded bazaar back to her old castle. Inside, everything was covered with a thick layer of dust, from Maleficent's old throne to the green refrigerator that still held goblin slime from 2 years ago. For a moment, Mal felt sad about her mother, who was still trapped as a lizard, wherever she was now. Mal braced herself to go out on the balcony and address the crowd. "Hold on," said Evie, brushing Mal's hair from her forehead and pulling up her jacket collar. "Better. Thanks," said Mal, trying not to feel too nervous. "You've got this, okay? It's a great plan, and I know you're going to do Oradon proud," reassured Evie. "I just really want this to work," said Mal, taking a deep breath. "I know. Me too," said Evie. "You're gonna be great," said Carlos. Jay grinned and clapped Mal on the shoulder for encouragement. She smiled and stepped onto the balcony. Mal took her place and raised her hands to signal for attention. Jay, Carlos, and Evie walked behind her, fanning out so that everyone could see them. Mal hoped they looked like a power squad and not like a bunch of kids who didn't know what they were getting themselves into. A hush fell over the crowd as the people of the Isle of the Lost spotted them. But whatever Mal had expected their reaction to be, it wasn't this. The audience shrank back, whispering wildly and gesturing with fright toward the four of them. Some people even seemed to be trembling. A few of the little ones were outright crying. Mal looked around in confusion and disbelief. She knew she had a reputation, but how scary did they really think she was? Evie crept up beside her. Mal?" Mal's stage whispered back, "What's going on? Why do they look so freaked out?" Carlos cleared his throat. "Well, we're kind of standing in the shadows," he said, gesturing in the overhang that was cloaked them in darkness. "I think that they think you're your mom." It was only then that Mal could make out the fervent, terrified whispers from the crowd. "Maleficent!" they were saying. "She's back!" Someone in the crowd shrieked and ran away. Mal tugged down the collar of her jacket, which might have looked like a bit cape-like in silhouette, she realized. But come on, it's not like she had horns. She stepped out of the shadows and into the sunlight. Guys, she said, waving her hands. "It's me, Mal. And my mom is like eating leaves and lying on a rock somewhere," she wanted to add, but didn't. A murmur rippled through the crowd as terror turned into something that resembled relief, but a relief that was definitely still tinged with terror. "Mal, she's back! Mal's going to curse us! Why is she here? Who's that behind her? Why, it's the four of them! They're all back! I like Evie's dress! What's Mal going to do to us?" "I hope my mother doesn't find out I'm here," muttered Carlos, standing next to Evie. "Shh," said Evie, who was waving to the crowd and blowing kisses like a true princess. "Everyone calm down. We have good news," called Evie, but the crowd ignored her and continued to churn with nervous energy. Jay stepped forward. Settle down, he commanded. "Go on, Mal, tell them." Mal raised her hands once more for silence. This time she got it. "Hi," she started again, then took a breath and squared her shoulders. "I have an official announcement from the Kingdom of Oradon. Oradon Prep is taking more applications from the Isle of the Lost." Mal paused, glancing around for applause or gasps of excitement, but they were only staring up at her silently. 4 new kids are going to be selected to attend the school, just like we were. I promise you, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, and I hope you'll all consider applying. Join us on the mainland. Mal finished her announcement with a grin and waited, but the villains were just shaking their heads. They grumbled to each other. "School? Who wants to go to school? Oradon? Why would we want to go there? This is stupid. Homework? Ew." The crowd began to disperse, muttering and shaking their heads. Evie rushed up next to Mal, her arms outstretched. "Wait, hear us out, please." "Please?" Mal heard one of the kids scoff. No one ever used common courtesy like please on the Isle. Mal thought that most of them must have been shocked into complying, though, because they all seemed to pause. "Yes, listen," said Carlos. "We've had a great time in Oradon. There were so many delicious things to eat that aren't even rotten or expired, and so many awesome desserts." "There's this game called Tourney," said Jay, "where you can really beat someone up." Evie shot him a look, and he shrugged. "You have to give them what they want to hear." Mal nodded. Jay was right. They would never be able to explain the appeal of Oradon to people who only knew life on the Isle of the Lost. but she had to try. I was like you once, she said. I just wanted to live a wicked life, full of treachery and evil deeds, but Oradon changed me. I realized there's more to life than being wicked. Like what? Sneered a snaggletooth witch. Well, said Mal, searching for something the crowd would respond to. There's strawberries, these amazing fruits that burst with flavor on your tongue. And there's this stuff called peanut butter, said Carlos. It's like butter, made from peanuts. They don't know what butter is except that it's rancid, Evie reminded him in a whisper. Let me try. She stepped up to the railing. Like Mel said, there's more to life than being evil. There's loyalty and friendship. The four of them linked hands and smiled at each other. You will find friends who will do anything for you, said Carlos. You'll discover that you're more than what you thought you were, added Jay, and they lifted their hands to the sky in unison. And there's love, said Mal, feeling tears come to her eyes. She was Maleficent's daughter, born and bred to hate, to plot, to scheme, to command minions to do her bidding. Mistress of darkness, queen of the Isle of the Lost, but all she felt for this ragged, unruly crowd was deep empathy and affection. Mal wished they could all understand that there were greater things to live for than revenge or violence or pettiness, greed and graft. The crowd still didn't look too convinced, but Mal thought it was a good start. She had to give them time. Even the four of them took a while to discover they were better off in Oradon than the Isle of the Lost.